Welcome back, folks. We will continue where we left off last time. We have seen that the armies are standing across each other, and Arjuna in his chariot, which Krishna is driving, stands in the middle of the battlefield, and he's gradually crumbling down under the pressure because he needs to fight with his loved ones, and he's aware that he has to take their lives. So it has thrown him into this unspeakable situation, and we are at a point where he has started describing the stages that he's going through. We will just cover a few of the verses that we had seen last time. So we are going to see verse number 41. अधर्माद्भिभवात् कृष्ण प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय जायते वर्णसङ्करः. Arjun has said that the thinking from the Kaurava side is incorrect, and therefore they are going to commit acts of sin. But we who are wiser than them know that the acts that we would commit are going to end up being sinful acts, and therefore we'll have to reap the fruit of these wrong actions. So in continuation with that theme, he's saying that the families, the family rights, the family traditions that have been followed for ages, they are going to get destroyed, corrupted. Adharama. So this is the fact that he's going to end up doing the wrong things. At least that's what he's thinking at this time. Adharamad bhibhavat Krishna. So adharama is adharamad bhibhavat Krishna. So adharma would become more than dharma. I'm deliberately trying to see to put more emphasis, a little bit more emphasis on the Sanskrit, because I have heard a little bit of feedback from people that they were interested in some more of the Sanskrit words. Adharamad bhibhavat Krishna. Pradushyanti. Pradushyanti means corruption, pollution. This is commonly used in air pollution, those kind of things. Adharamad bhibhavat Krishna. Pradushyanti kulastriyaha. The women who form a part of the family are going to get polluted. We have seen this verse. I'm not going to get too much into details. Strishu dushtasu varshneya. So the women in our family who will get polluted, and thus being polluted, Strishu dushtasu varshneya. Varshneya is another name for Krishna. Jayate varna sankaraha. They will give birth to impure, so mixed breed. One needs to look at this a little bit carefully, and one can take this on the face value, and then we will see what the metaphoric implication of this is. But in briefly, what this means is that when one commits adharmic acts, then the net effect of this act that he does is going to produce results that are not favorable. So what it translates from our metaphoric standpoint is, we sometimes we know that there are certain acts that we are doing are incorrect, or there's a potential in the from the risk reward paradigm that it's going to hurt us, and we anyway go and do it. We will see some examples of this. We might be angry and we know that we are not supposed to take out our anger on a certain so and so, and you go and do it anyway, and then there could be a potential backlash of that the person might get hurt if he's a close one, or there's so many other things that can happen. So basically the result of the the women here that are being mentioned are nothing but different processes that are running through our mind, and they, if they get impure, they get tainted by some kind of unfair from a body, from a spirit trans standpoint, that it's something that's going to hurt us. You, I don't know, you're seeking a job and then they ask you about some qualification and you lie about it. So you know that if you get caught, it's going to hurt you really bad. In the long run, you're going to reap so reap the benefits, well, if you want to call it benefit, of what you have sowed. In the long run, it's going to hurt you. Okay, enough of it. Let's. We have seen this verse before, so I don't want to spend too much. Okay, on to the next verse. Sankaro narakayaiva kulaghnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hesham luptapindodakakriyaha. Sankaro. Sankaro is unwanted children. So the unwanted results of the polluted and corrupt practices, processes that have somehow come to be, they we see them society in the society, and here we are applying the metaphor to the brain, to our mind. So we see them happening in our mind as well. Sankaro narakayaiva kulaghnanam kulasya cha. So Sankara, unwanted children. Naraka is hell. So there is in Hindu religion, just like there's heaven and hell in Christianity. Here, heaven is Swarga and hell is Naraka. So it's saying that the Sankara Narakayaiva. Naraka, like I said, is a Narakayaiva. Eva is certainly. Sankaro Narakayaiva Kulagnanam. Kulagnanam is there are two words that have joined together. Basically, it means by the destruction of our family traditions, family by the destruction of our family, the family traditions will be destroyed. By the destruction or the compromise of the family traditions, the woman would get polluted, and therefore the offspring from those are also going to be polluted, and the result of all this is not going to be good, and we are going to end up in hell because of these wrong things that we have done. Sankaro narakayaiva kulaghananam kulasya cha. Kulaghananam is for the killers, for the people who, like he, who have destroyed the family, and for the family. Patanti pitaro hesham. So this is, I explained last time, this has got a historical context. So there is a notion that one needs to take care of the forefathers, which are pitara, and they are wherever they are in heaven. So now heaven, no, I don't know, wherever they are, we kind of take care of them. So because of our acts, our adharmic acts, we are going to cause them discomfort, and they will in fact fall down. Patanti. Patanti is to fall down. Patanti pitaro hesham. Lupta pindodaka kriya. Lupta is kind of vanished. So because we won't have family and we won't be able to have the traditions of the family, so we will not be able to carry out the different rites that one are supposed to do in order to take care of our ancestors. So they will fall down from whatever state they have attained. So basically, we are responsible for that. So what does this mean uh, from a somewhat more abstract and our metaphoric perspective? The forefathers, they represent the things that have come to us. Um, one might put them as things that have been have come down genetically to us. One might also look at them that something that we have specifically systematically focused on to provide us a strength in our ongoing life. So it could also represent that. And by this act of um, this act of sin or injustice that we'll be doing, these these good things that we have inherited from various other places. So the Pitara kind of represent pieces of that, and those that we have cultivated, the proportion of that to the degree of the unfairness or the sinful act that we are about to execute, it is going to cover them, overpower them, and have we would have actually done an injustice to all those things that we have carefully inculcated over a period of time, and some of them inherited, in fact. So that's kind of what you can take the sense of this shloka to mean. Sankaro nar. Sankara is the offspring, the resultant, the result of the intermingling of these corrupt forces. So it's they say this as a kind of a joke, but you can get the you can get the sense of it that such and such a person, he's a good person, and generally he's very nice. But once he's under the influence of alcohol, then you really can't blame him because um, he's not himself. Then he goes and he uh, he gambles then, and then once he gambles, he's really not himself. So we can't blame him. So you're giving this justification one after another to wrong things, and one corrupt thing after another is taking place. So that's kind of the sense of what you can derive from this verse. Okay, let's move on to the next verse. दोषैरेतैः कुलघ्नानां वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्स्याद्यन्ते जातिधर्माः कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः. Dosha is faults, the defects, the wrong things. Etai, all these. Doshairetai, so all these wrong things that we will end up doing. Doshairetai kulagnanam, because of yeah, or uh, the the people that we are who have destroyed our family, that perpetrators of the destruction, if you want to put it that way. Doshairetai kulagnanam varna sankara karakai, who are varna sankara, as we saw earlier, is the unwanted offspring. So karakaihi, karakai is who are responsible. So we would be responsible for this unwanted offerings. Utsyadhyante, Utsyadante is the devastation or the destruction. Utsyadhyante jati dharmaha. Again, the principles, the practices, the good things that come out of the good practices that tie together the community and us as a whole, all those will get destroyed. Utsyadhyante jati dharmaha kuladharmascha shashvataha. Shashvata is eternal. So the practices of the family, the traditions, all of these would get destroyed. And we have seen the net result of what this implies. And so this the corruption of processes in the mind, which uh, gives rise to it's kind of a compound effect. It's a rolling ball, and so the Arjuna is threading together one thing after another, and he gets the snowball rolling, and he's like the ball started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually these small acts will add up until they begin to affect the person as a whole. So if the overall goal that in general we have an idea overall we have an idea of what direction we are going in, and if we lose sight of that, we lose sense of that, it's like a rudderless ship. So that's what happens when you are under the influence of alcohol. Then your whole body, it's you don't know how it's functioning. It's not doing the right things, and you don't have control over it. So everything is building towards that point. So you're gradually, bit by bit, progressing towards that eventual chaos and destruction. Keep in mind that his Arjuna's rationalization here is incorrect, because what he is saying as sinful actions, uh, that notion of his itself can be challenged. So let's not lose sight of that fact. He is being asked to kill, to destroy the forces that are representing or supporting adharma. He's trying to turn it around and somehow show that that is not the case. But we need to keep this bigger picture in mind. Just to complete this verse, दोषैरेतैः कुलघ्नानां वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्स्याद्यन्ते जातिधर्माः kuladharmascha shashvataha. So he's saying this is going to end up in utter and complete ruin of our entire family. I will see maybe some of the next verses will get us closer to the metaphor that we have been looking at. And if not, we are coming very close to the end of this chapter. At that point, I will go into more detail. Utsanna kuladharmanam मनुष्याणां जनार्दन नरके नियतं वासः भवतीत्यनुशुश्रुमाम्. Utsanna kuladharmanam. It's kind of the same story being repeated. Utsanna kuladharmanam manushyanam janardana. The spoiled, Utsanna is polluted, spoiled. Kuladharmanam, the Kula is family, dharma is traditions, the righteous practices that have been taught to us in our family that we have been following. So they will get polluted by doing this action. Utsanna kuladharmanam Manushyanam Janardana. Janardana, oh Krishna, Krishna's name. Utsanna, we have heard, oh Janardana, that it is inevitable for those men. Uh, well, let me follow the Sanskrit words before I go to the paraphrasing of it. Utsanna kuladharmana manushyanam janardana narake niyatam va. Naraka is hell. Niyatam always. Vasa. Narake niyatam vasa. Vasa is the residence. Your place of your abode. You know, the nivasa is where you live. So narake niyatam vaso. You will be living in hell all the time if you end up uh, if you end up annihilating your family, which will end up resulting in the pollution and destruction of your family's dharma. Narake niyatam vasa bhavatit anushrumam. So it the we would end up living in hell forever is what I have heard. Bhavatit anushrumam. I have heard from places that this is what will happen if we do all these wrong things. Okay, so he is basically saying that the what is happening right now is a potential recipe for disaster. All these different corrupt forces are coming together, and uh, it will empty the mind of any and all worldly and materialistic ambition. So you have some kind of a drive to become successful in life, and by virtue of that, you might do some good to people, your family, so on and so forth. But because of these things, if you are under the influence of alcohol or whatnot, some kind of inebriation like that, you basically lose drive of that success, and then um, that leads to gradual disintegration of other smaller forces that add up. So it's like you decide you want to become a computer engineer, and you are willed, I want to do this. So you go and um, analyze, you find out, if I want to do this, then I need to become a graduate. And if I want to become a graduate, I need to take these subjects. I need to get A grades in this and that. And I don't need this subject. You do your analysis, you come up with things, you put a plan together, and you work towards that goal. But if you don't have a goal to work towards, then everything falls apart. Your entire life falls apart. So that's what he's kind of saying, that nothing to be done, because you are under such, you might get under such grip of kind of depression that your life will be a total waste. Okay. Aho batamahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadraj sukhalobhena hantum swajanamujjata. Aho batamahat papam. It is like saying, an exclamation mark, with a capital E, I don't know, or a bold exclamation mark. Oh my God, that kind of thing. How great is this misfortune? Something like that. Aho batamahat papam. How great is this sin? How strange it is. Aho batamahat. Batamahat. Bata is strange. It is strange. Mahat is great. Aho batamahat papam. Great, great sin. How great is this sin? Vyavasit, vyavasita vayam. Aho batamahat papam kartum. Let me just Aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam. So we guys have decided vyavasita vayam kartum to do. We guys kartum vyavasita vayam. We guys have decided to do this mahapapa. Mahapapa is great sin. How aho bata, how unfortunate is that? Um, oh my God, it's so strange. That's kind of what this translator paraphrases to. Aho batamahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadraj sukhalobhena hantum swajana mudyata yad. So this kingdom that we desire to gain by getting into this fight, for that reason, the reason is to get this piece of land. He's putting it like that we are fighting for this piece of land. So for that reason we are willing to commit such a grave sin. So it is a strange thing that we are doing this. Yadraj sukha rajya sukha lobhena, by this uh, desire for, or by this greed for us to have this rajya, is kingdom, sukha is the pleasures that come with the kingdom. In order to get these things, yadrajya sukha lobhena, hantum is kill, swajana is our own people, swajanam udyata, so trying to. So we, in order to acquire these pleasures of life, are committing such a grave sin that is so strange. It is so weird. It just doesn't make sense. That's what Arjuna is saying over here. So how unfair, how frivolous it will be to for us to indulge in activities that will end up in us killing our people for the sake of this land, which we will not be able to enjoy afterwards. So what, from our metaphoric standpoint, is that we have been provided this body, and we have been provided this intellect, and we have been provided with all these facilities that we can use in order to achieve these worldly goals. So there are two forces acting here. There is a spiritual pursuit which stands like directly opposite to the worldly goals of man's life. um, I'm not getting completely into the karma yogic discussion here, but on the face of it, at least, there are these two things. And we have got a glass in which, or we have got two bottles, which has got a red colored liquid and the other has a blue colored liquid. And you can only pour one kind of liquid into a glass. You have one glass that is a red color liquid and a blue colored liquid. And you are asked to pick one of them. And so you basically, if you pick one, you are abandoning the other. And Arjuna is coming up with all kinds of reasoning why he needs to pick one over the other. And it is not that obvious just by reading this, but the worldly goals in life, if you have to if you have to pursue them, you obviously have, if you want to become uh, a good sportsman, this might be a little bit stretched example, but still it will work good in this case. If you want to become a good sportsman, in basketball, and you want to become really good at it, and so you practice day and night, and you throw the ball in the net, you're running around, whatever it is that you do. And so you are basically now ignoring your academic skills that you might have. You might still graduate and all that, but supposing you wanted to become a nuclear scientist, which requires an equal amount of effort and equal amount of dedication from you. And you can just pick one, you cannot pick both. And this is kind of the 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 dharmic uh, confusion, the word I'm looking, dilemma. This is the dilemma that we are in. Who is to say that being a sportsman is a dharmic? It's it's not an easy pick, and that is what is actually causing a lot of pain. And we, in fact, this example that I'm giving is kind of a realistic, because it happens with musicians. If they want to pick a career in music, they have to put a lot of effort and a lot of dedication. But the society's yardstick of success is how much money you have in your bank, or at least one of the major yardsticks. And you might become some kind of a CEO of a company, and you might make more money than this guy. And so, who is defining this yardstick? And how do you, in the case of dharma defines this yardstick. And in case of the Advaita Vedanta, which is the backdrop of this whole discussion, if you take that litmus test and you apply it to whatever it is that we are doing, then we will find that some of the things we are doing, they don't fall exactly into the category of one doing dharma. You are basically being unfair to yourself by not giving yourself the chance to realize what the truth is. And what the truth is a huge discussion, but there is no alternative for that. Everybody is after that, whether you know it or not. Everybody is after that, seeking the truth. So what Arjuna is saying here is that I am sacrifice a certain set of values, and I'm selecting a certain set of values. And once that he thinks he is being asked to abandon, he is lamenting over that. He's like, how unfortunate it is that I am being asked to not pursue these worldly goals that I do want to pursue, and you are kind of pushing back on me. Why? Because it doesn't fall in the yardstick of dharma. And for somebody to define their own yardstick of dharma becomes extremely critical in this case. In the whole of Bhagwad Gita, we are going to see how this mystery unfolds. Okay. Alas, we are involved in a great sin in that we are prepared to kill our kinsmen from greed for the pleasures of the kingdom. Aho batamahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadraja sukhalobhena hantum swajanamudyata. So this is something that I had, this verse is something that I had referenced earlier. This we are going to see to what degree of fall can he reach or a person or a man or a human can reach in this state of depression, he is willing to give up his own life in order to keep being indulged in something that he thinks is the right thing. Whether it is correct from a dharmic standpoint or some other yardstick is a different question. He believes that there is a certain right thing. He believes in that. And he goes to a point where he is ready to give up his own life. And this verse is basically saying exactly that. Yadi mama pratikaram ashastra-shastrapanayah dhartarashtrarane hanyu राष्ट्र धार्तराष्ट्रारणे हन्युस्तेन मे धार्तराष्ट्रारणे हन्यु. Just one second. Let me say this from धार्तराष्ट्रारणे हन्यु तन्मे क्षेमतरं भवेत्. So he's like, yadi, even if mama, yadi, even if mama pratika apratikaram, without restraint, ashastra ashastram, without being fully, without having weapons. So I will, even if I'm to fight without any weapons with those who have weapons. Yadi mama pratikaram shastram shastrapanayah Dhartarashtra is the sons of Dhritarashtra. Dhartarashtra Rane Hanyu. Rane is on the battlefield. Hanyu is kill. Tanme Kshemataram Bhavet. So Kshemataram. It will be better if the sons of Dhritarashtra who would be armed, and even if I were to be disarmed without any kind of without me any kind putting any kind of protest towards their killing, which in other words is nothing but suicide. He is saying it's better that you guys come and kill me rather than me fighting with you guys and killing him, even if you are not. We have gone through this enough number of times. So he's like, I would consider my own death, that is my suicide, to be a better alternative than to fight and kill the Kauravas. So we don't have too much of time, and I do want to finish this chapter because we might have just one verse left here. Let me do that. Let me finish this verse, and then if we have time, I'll come back here. And this finishes Arjuna's long theory of rationalization. Why it doesn't make sense for him to fight and take the lives of his Kaurava brethren. And then Sanjaya then begins to explain what Arjun does after his long comment. I was going to say his litany of woes, but this is more than that. This is a lament. That's what he's going through. Eva muktva Arjuna sankhe. So Sanjay says that evam, thus uktva, eva muktva Arjuna sankhe. In the battlefield, Arjuna said all these things. Eva muktva Arjuna sankhe rathopastha upavishata. He who was sitting, he was in his chariot, rathopastha, who was sitting on his chariot. Upavishata, he sat down. Rathopastha upavishata visrucha sasharam chapam. So visrucha, putting aside, visrucha sasharam chapam. Sacharam is sacharam cha Sacharam Chapam is he took his quiver of arrows and his bow, the Gandiv, the famous Gandiv, and he put them down. Visrucha Sacharam Chapam Shokasam Vignamanasaha, and he's drowned in grief, anticipatory grief and despair. He's not killed anyone yet. Interestingly, this event that has taken place just now in the Mahabharata, this happens to be in the Bhishma Parva, which is, I believe, the sixth Parva in the Mahabharata. And then and the story goes on that the the it's kind of a big chapter. They are called as Parva. But Parva is made up of multiple chapters. So canto or something you can call this book. You can call it a book. So Bhishma Parva. Then the very elaborate story how they managed to vanquish Bhishma, the Pandavas. And then the next general comes over, and then the next general comes over, and so on and so forth. This battle goes on for 18 days. So each general has got a book by his name. So this is Bhishma Parva because Bhishma was the general from the Kaurava side. And then after Bhishma, there was Drona. That is why there is Drona Parva after this. 10 days Bhishma fought, 5 or 6 days Drona fought. Then there is Karna Parva. So Karna was the next general. And after that, there is Shalya Parva. And then after that, with the 18 days of war over, and then there is some other Parvas are there, Sauptika and all that. But this vision that had brought Arjuna to his knees and brought about his collapse, his anticipatory grief about seeing they were still there, but he could visualize what had happened. So, or what was going to happen. He's not yet seen them, and that made him suffer the way he's suffering. It actually happened at the end of these 4 parvas. It does take place, and then others go through a similar kind of thing, but probably more worse because here everybody is still there. He's forecasting, he's anticipating that this is going to happen, and that lands him in this situation, this trouble that he's in. And at the end of these other parvas, when this has taken place, and much worse than what he's thinking, others also go through a similar kind of a mental state, and so it's interesting to contrast this situation, which basically boils down to the greatness of Mahabharata, that man finds himself in so many different kinds of situations, and he's trying to grapple with it, trying to understand and trying to figure out really how should he be thinking in when he lands up in this kind of trouble, what is the right thing to do. And it is very, we are fortunate, and it is very surprising that so many of these conditions that, and we don't even come close to some of the complicated situations that the Mahabharata describes, but we can trace our our location, the axis point, the different axes that are there. We can take our location point and we can map it into some event that took place in Mahabharata, and we'll find it there and see. Because after all, this is both, it is a statement of fact and it's an advice. So we can take advice from this. So Arjuna he has virtually stepped down, and the ace warrior from the Pandava side, he is given up even before the first shot is fired in the battle. He is lost. So, with all the training that has gone into the mind to you you I don't I want to take a better example, but we there are some people who are addicted to drugs or alcoholism or some other things, and then they go to these different clinics where they try and wean them away from this drug or whatever addiction that they have. And with all the training that has gone into that, the mind, it is this addiction, the alcoholism, and that's very obvious. You can see, and you think that we are better than this person. He cannot wean off this addiction. 45 days he has not touched cigarette, and then the 46th days he breaks down. He is no he 46th day when this person breaks down. This whole Arjuna situation we describe is that person's state of mind, is that he has been putting up such a fight to not lift that cigarette and smoke. He has put up such a valiant fight, and after 45 days he is forced by this urge to go and take that one shot of one puff of cigarette smoke. He is supposed to, and before that, before he takes that, he's going through all this, and he's in such extreme distress, and then he takes it, and then what follows is this collapse. That he has been defeated with all this preparation that has gone into making his mind strong. He has failed. So you get overwhelmed by this surge of this one spike of emotion. It comes and it takes over. The deed is committed, and and a poignant canopy settles on the mental being of this person, whoever is not being able to resist this temptation. He falls under this sensitive umbrella of things, and we are determined that we will not first we say that we'll not let this happen, and then second thing is we say, I'll get up and fight again, and you keep doing that your whole life. Now we get angry at somebody, or somebody, well, we are running away all the time, but this is I will probably continue this. This is the end of the first chapter. um, and actually it so happens that in the second chapter, um, we are going to go over a lot of these pieces again. So I might reserve um, the discussion that I wanted to do over this piece of the shloka for the next chapter. So this actually concludes the first chapter of the Bhagwad Gita. And let me just go through this last bit here, which is kind of how every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita ends. And some of the books I have seen, they start out saying, this is the name of the chapter, and this is what we are used to generally. Any book we pick, we see that it has got a title, but many times, depending on which book you're reading, it actually, the title comes and at the end of this. So here, Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So this word here, this is the name of the chapter. Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamo Dhyaya. Pratham is the first. Adhyaya is obviously the Adhyaya. This, if I were to get into this verse, it will be a long discussion, and I think I am going to reserve this for another day. Going into this specific verse, let me think about it. I might take it up next session, or but just reserved uh, uh, session just to go over this first two lines, which repeat after every chapter. These two lines repeat. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. So these two lines will repeat it, and I will see. I might do a small session on just these two lines. Okay, thank you for listening, and till we meet next time, you have a nice week. Thanks. Bye.